Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, Lessons Learned, a tale of unjust firing and moving forward. The second story, Pizza Parlor Standoff, the trade that wasn't. The third story, the downfall of a mismanaged vegan startup. The first story is, no one in management is your friend. So I've been meaning to post this for a few months now. Back in March, I got fired from my IT job. A little backstory, back in 2020, I got a job working for a small mom-and-pop aerospace parts manufacturing job as an IT help desk tech. This was my first tech job. I was an EMT/fireman before that, and took a year in between that and the tech job working as a mechanic for my FIL. So I got hired on with no professional tech experience, mostly just home labs and the side stuff I did helping the older captains at the firehouse. The first year and a half was great. It was a team of 3 to 4 people, including myself, that had a few people go in and out. The manager that hired me moved to Chicago, our sysadmin took over, and we brought on the guy whose role I filled in when he left. Everyone was super knowledgeable and taught me a lot. I was brought on to be the on-site tech for our second location across town. What my boss didn't tell me is that he hired me to punish them by putting an inexperienced tech there for running the other tech into a bottle. That location had a bad reputation for being a viper's pit of BS and backstabbing tendencies. The COO over there was a loudmouth entitled A-Hat, but for some reason he respected me. I had pushed back at him for trying to rush me and micromanage, and he calmed down after that. Well, long story short, I dug my heels in and learned as much as I could as fast as I could. My firefighting and EMT experience helped me with the social and interpersonal relationship with the users. I wound up fixing a bunch of big issues they had that were going on for months, and kinda just took over managing what I could over there. About a year passes and there's a massive explosion at the main plant. It turns out that they deliberately manufactured a substandard part for a car, resulting in someone very badly hurt. Their biggest contractor put all their current projects on hold and did a full investigation, 80% of that site's revenue. So after a few months of trying to float, everyone came in one day and all their logins were deactivated, and everyone was told to gather their things and leave. They were going bankrupt. 100 plus workers unemployed in a matter of minutes. Well, this left me with questions. So they informed the IT team that my location will be sold off to another investment group and that we would remain open. The other guys over at the main location, not so much. They fired the sysadmin that became manager and retained the guy that came back after I took his spot, until the liquidation was complete. Well, my side jerked him around for months, having him do IT manager stuff without paying him for it. When he finally said something and gave them his requirements for being IT manager, they showed him the door. I told my new boss, the CFO, that I was not going to be able to take all of this on my own. And we needed an MSP for the heavy lifting server side of things, because I was still shaky on that. So they did. Well, we got bought out by a pair of venture capitalists. I started to get drug into meetings with them for IT-related issues, and I could tell right away that they were going to be bottom-line people. I got nervous that they were going to look at me and wonder why they're paying me my small hourly wage in an MSP, and I was going to get let go. I spoke with my CFO, who I had a mutual respect for, and he was helping me learn how to navigate dealing with C-levels, and he told me that wasn't going to happen and that he has my back on that. Well, a few months later, they canned my CFO, and I was kinda left in limbo. I wound up just reporting to the MSE the time being. I made my second year in October, the year all of this was going down. So when I didn't get my review, I kinda brushed it off as transitional issues. Come around to January of this year, they promote the head of sales, a younger guy around my age. We would sit and talk about how F the system is, who is a friend of mine at work, to VP of Operations, and he effectively became my boss. So I bring up the review thing and how I didn't get my raise, and now that things are settled down, I'd like to start talking about that. I get reassured that it's going to happen and he will get back with me. At the same time, I was told that all my overtime was gone effective immediately. I had a long email chain explaining what I do and why I need it being a one-man on-site team, but to no avail. I kept harping on it because stuff that was breaking, and I knew it was because I couldn't do my usual maintenance. A few weeks go by and I start getting that shaky feeling again, so I have a meeting with the VP and kind of lay it all out there. He told me I'm fine, they need me here. I'm the only one who knows where the skeletons are buried and they can't afford to lose me. They also hired a new head of HR that was really just a corporate hit woman. She put in a bunch of new policies and rules in place that just added red tape to everything. She was also putting everyone under a microscope to trim fat. I had another meeting with the VP and HR lady about overtime or a raise, because I'm not making ends meet with my pay, and I'm due a yearly raise from October. You want to talk about corporate cold? That HR lady was on par with Bob's from Office Space. Then the second bomb hit. My psych was closing his practice, and I was going to be without my meds for a while. I have ADHD, major depression, PTSD, and anxiety, all things management knows about. On top of that, I'm starting to get slammed with tickets because I don't have the time to do my usual after-hours cleanup and maintenance, and the VCs want all kinds of reports and projects done that I have to learn how to do. So mid-March hits, I have a convo with the VP again about my mental health and how I'm having panic attacks every day without my meds. He calms me down, gives me the same "you're doing fine, we're proud of how well you're doing, we need you" BS. He even offered to try and get me into his wife's psych practice she works for. So I'm okay and I head out. He left to go on vacation for a week. And here's where all hell breaks loose. While he was gone, our main server crashed. Well, it took all day to boot it back up because the after-hours updates hadn't been done since I lost OT. I got reamed, and I'm the worst off mentally I've been in a while. I come back that next Monday on edge. I had a particularly SH department head yell at me on the phone and I had a full-on panic attack. I email HR and the VP letting them know I'm using my vacation time to take 3 days emergency mental health leave. I spent those 3 days putting in applications to new jobs because I was done. I did not want to be there anymore. I come back on Thursday, go to clock in on my phone and all my accounts are locked out. Walked into the building and was met at the door by the VP and the HR lady with all my stuff in a box. We went to the VP's office and they told me I was fired. Their reasoning? Destruction of company property and failure to follow procedure. I asked, what did I destroy? Show me what I destroyed, and got met with, we aren't doing this. Just sign the paper or don't and leave. They then said some SH about downloading games on a company laptop. Well, that was done way back when I first started with written approval by my old boss for team building. We would stay late off the clock and play Star Citizen. I then brought up that it seems like this is retaliation for me taking mental health leave, which was quickly shot down by the HR lady with legal jargon and BS to throw me off that. I look at the VP dead in the eyes and said, "So this is what comes of we need you, we're proud of you, you're doing a great job. I spent 2.5 years working my A off at this place, and you watched me do it, and now it's F you?" And he just sat there silently. They gave me a severance package to look over and sent me on my way. $1,200 is what I'm worth to them. To add on to that, the P&P's charge was BS as well. We never had a fully ratified P&P in place. I never signed one when I started, so they had no legal recourse on it. Luckily, I already had 2 other job interviews lined up, and one of them panned out, where I'm at now, so I wasn't hurting for money. I had my last full check and vacation payout to tide me over, and my wife had just gotten a good job a few weeks prior. I tried going to a lawyer, but since not much time had passed from the firing to my new job, no one would take it because there isn't a payout for it. So I took my severance and just paid off bills with it. But in the end, it worked out. I learned a lesson and got paid $1,200 to go to my other job. From what I hear from friends still back there, they aren't doing good. They fired a lot of longtime managers and employees, one of my friends, and added new rules that are peeving people off. On top of that, they used to be pulling in a couple mil every month in sales, and now they're lucky to hit $30K this month. Just remember, kids, no one up top cares about you. They will cut you out the minute they think you aren't useful to them anymore. The second story is trade pizza for partially eaten sandwich. When I was in high school, I worked at a pizza parlor. One day a lady had ordered a hot sandwich. We made those too, and decided after one bite that she wanted a slice of pizza instead. She sends her son, who's younger than me, to do the exchange. The kid says he wants a slice of pizza instead, and I say sure, no problem, and begin to cut him a slice. I ring him up and he tries to hand me the sandwich. I look at him and ask what he's doing. He says he's giving me back the sandwich for the slice of pizza. I ask him what's wrong with it and he says nothing. I politely inform him that we cannot do a refund on a partially eaten meal, and if he wants the pizza, he will be charged for it. He gets this sheepish look on his face and wanders back to his table with the sandwich. Next thing I know, the mom is at the register with the sandwich, hot about how we won't do the exchange. About this time, a coworker, about the mom's age, overhears and says to her that there will not be a refund, have a nice day. She gets ruffled feathers and wants to know my name and the name of the coworker as she gets out a pen. I say sure, my name is blank and that was blank the owner. She stops writing, glares at me and leaves in a huff. I smiled. The third story is, I recently got laid off from a startup vegan meal packing company. It may sound eye-roll inducing for the little guy to say they don't know how to run a business, but they really don't know. I honestly believe the founders and owners just hit a glass ceiling for themselves, and now the company is getting too big and they just can't do it. I was hired into their warehouse, and over the combined 18 months I worked there over 2 stints, we cycled through warehouse managers. For such a small warehouse, it was hilariously unorganized. No one seemed capable of doing the job. Every time a manager got fired, the response was dropped on the same guy's head. He was an inventory person who was always in the warehouse, so he got stuck with it multiple times with no pay or promotion. During my first stint, the warehouse had no leads. Other departments did. That position was created during my hiatus. For my entire time there, we had 0 supervisors. Other departments had multiple. Until the very end when they made another department's supervisor pull double duty supervising us. This supervisor had literally less than a month before screamed at the warehouse and called us worthless. Hell, when I was hired there, the warehouse manager was on his way out. I never met him, and as for my first 3.5 months, we reported directly to the plant manager. I needed a forklift license and asked him weekly. Last time I asked him, he facepalmed and said, "I don't have time for this SH." He was out less than a month later. And in my first stint, there was only 2 of us on my shift, so for 2 days a week I worked a warehouse alone. This company is based in NorCal. As we struggled along in a mismanaged building, the executive team decided to purchase a plant on the East Coast, where they opened and started producing without even hiring enough people yet. We were literally flying people from Cali to the EC for weeks at a time to support the new facility. Then, in a massive stroke of genius, they decided to manage the company budget under one umbrella, instead of separating for the 2 facilities. So there was a panic when suddenly our ingredient price per meal jumped up an entire $1 and they couldn't figure it out. Conference calls and everything where the CEO showed how out of his element he was. There started to be a lot of whispers about the stability of the company. Come March 1st this year, they lay off around 20 people. Myself and one of my leads among them. I was laid off over the phone. There was an immediate domino effect of other people immediately leaving. My direct report said he'd never seen a building's morale plummet as fast as that day. And again, I was fired on the phone, so I wasn't there to see. My direct report, the very person who was always tasked to cover the warehouse when a manager was fired, put in his 2 weeks, and he was one of the most critical yet disrespected workers there. His knowledge of the company was immense. He crunched the numbers and said if the top 10 executives each took a 5% pay cut, they could have saved everyone. But how often do executives admit their faults and do that? I and my coworkers didn't decide to open that EC plant, but we sure paid for it with our jobs. Soon the plant was closed. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to know when the new video comes out, and hit the like button to support the channel. Have a good day.